Hi everybody, Jeremy Siskind here. I'm the author of Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2, Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 1, Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 3. Boy, when's there gonna be a book 4, am I right? Plus 2 editions of solo standards for piano and playing solo jazz piano. Alright, if you haven't heard this, hear it now. Jazz is best learned in a community. I'll say it one more time. For the people in the back, jazz is best learned in a community. It is really, really hard to acquire a repertoire, to learn how to follow a form, to learn how to accompany effectively if you're playing just alone in your room. It's just also hard to stay motivated playing alone in your room. I've had those times of life where I'm not surrounded by that community, and it's hard. It's like, why am I doing this? And jam sessions, love them, hate them, fear them, embrace them. These are the places where jazz musicians come together, meet, form communities, form connections, professional, personal. And if you are somewhere on your jazz learning path, a jam session probably should be part of your learning experience. It might not end up being the main part. It might end up being a short-lived something. But jam sessions, these are the meat markets. That's so profane. But these are the exchanges, the community centers for jazz musicians. And I know that for a lot of students, I've heard this from from students who take my classes. A lot of students approach them with a lot of fear, and justifiably so. I mean, there's pretty famous and well-documented incidences of people being mocked at jam sessions, of people being made to feel uncomfortable or out of place at jam sessions. And so I wanted to give you some advice about how you can hopefully embrace a little bit of the jam sessions, get what's good out of them, and not go in feeling like you're going to be mocked. So or feel uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be mockery. So let's just go to these tips that I've got, if I can find the right button. There it is. So first one, big one, is scope it out first. Different jam sessions have different vibes depending on the venue, depending on the city, depending on who's leading is a huge part of it. If you go to Smalls in New York and you're not a professional musician, it's probably not going to be a good place for you. So if you're thinking about going to a jam session, I would probably attend 2 or 3 times. I would do my best to introduce yourself to whoever is putting it together. Best case scenario, buy a drink for whoever's putting it together, meet some of the musicians who you see showing up regularly, ingratiate yourself. And this is both for you so that you start to feel a little bit more comfortable in that setting. It's for the other musicians to realize, hey, this is a good guy. I've seen him around. He's showing up. But also, I would approach it strategically, especially if you're a student who's not confident. Maybe this is one of your first few times, maybe this is one of your first few times playing with others. What I mean by approaching it strategically is I would kind of get to know the flow of things. Is there always a dip around 10 p.m.? Do people usually, maybe they come a little bit earlier and there's more opportunity to play later? Or maybe it's the opposite. Or maybe, there's a day when you could see that there's 50 people showing up and they all want to play and they're all super high level. And then you'll be there on a week where there's only 10 people and they're actually really looking for a piano player, right? And that would be a great time to say, hey, I'm just a student. I'm a little nervous, but, could I play a tune or two? So scope it out, get to know what's the flow, what's the order of events, who do I talk to, who do I sign up with? Because you don't really want to have a super awkward social experience where you're trying to figure out, do I sign up? Is there a list I sign up for? Is there a person I talk to? How do I do this? Along with a stressful musical performance experience. You want to at least mitigate some of the stressful personal experience. So show up a few times and people, the musicians will love it. Everybody wants audience members, and compliment the musicians, talk to the musicians, be nice to them. and then find the right time to sit in. Second thing is have a plan. Nothing I hate more as when somebody who I know is less experienced than me gets up to the bandstand and says, what do you guys want to play? That's the wrong question to me, especially if I know that you're a student or you're at the beginning levels of your journey. It's going to be your choice what to play. So people, I think, try to be very polite and ingratiate themselves, but what I want to see, if I know that you're a student, is I want to see that you're prepared. You have a tune that you know so well that you are, you're ready to play. You're coming in with a plan. That said, I've also seen the opposite, that people are so either prepared or nervous and overbearing that they really steamroll the spontaneity of it. And they say, okay, there's going to be a piano intro, and there's going to be 2 choruses, then there's going to be 3 choruses of bass. Have a plan as to what tune you want to play, what tempo. In fact, I'm going to skip around because I have this later. I have this information later. Okay, so here are the things that you really ought to know if you're going to show up. The tune, the key, just in case somebody asks, the tempo, who's going to play the melody. If you're bringing in a tune, you should be prepared to play the melody. But, you might want to ask, are you going to, if there's a saxophone player there, are you going to play the melody? If there's a singer there, are you going to sing the melody so that you know what's going on? And then you should be able to count it off, because even if you tell somebody medium swing, you might not get the tempo you want unless you're the one counting it off. So practice counting it off. That is messing up the count off is the best way to let everybody know that you're an amateur and unprepared. It's the best way to get some eye rolls behind your back from other musicians. What are the worst ways to mess up a count off? Let's go through them. So first one is you snap on 2 and 4 for a swing tune. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't snap on 1 and 3. You don't snap on all 4s. And you do not snap on 2 and 4 for a straight 8th tune. So you don't say, Girl from Ipanema, 1, 2. Not correct. You're going to snap probably on all 4s. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 for a bossa. Another way to really mess up the count off would be having your tempo shift in the middle of the count off. We see this sometimes in students and amateurs. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So make sure that you've got that tempo steady. You already have it in your mind. Just nice and solid with those snaps. But yeah, those would be the biggest things that I would want to know going into a jam session, and I wouldn't say much more than that. If you start saying, let's trade 4s, let's do this, people are going to say, well, that'll work itself out on the bandstand. We don't need to decide that. Let's see. Now, here's another good reason to scope out the jam session. So this says, do your tune research. Another way to get kind of, not eye rolls, but odd looks from fellow musicians is if you choose a tune that's not really appropriate for a jam session context, right? We could debate about whether it's good or bad, but there is a certain body of tunes that will be well known by musicians, that will be well played. If you come in with a super rare Mingus tune, good on you. It's not going to be a good fit for the context. So a good, there's a lot of resources about the top 20 jazz tunes that you should know, but pay attention as you go to the jam session. What tunes are they playing? What tunes do they seem happy to play? What tunes do they seem not happy to play? Do they play ballads at the jam session, or do they not really play ballads at the jam session? Do they do 2 straight 8th tunes in a row? Probably not. If they just did a straight 8th tune, they probably want to do a non-straight 8th tune. And don't come in asking for some super rare, obscure tune. Even if you love it, jam session's not the right place. Jam sessions are for people to meet, and so they're for people to have shared language, not for one person to show off how hip they are, even if you're super hip. So do your tune research. Figure out what are some commonly called tunes that I might play, and then come in really knowing that tune, because you're going to lose 20 to 50% of your confidence and your memory when you're at that jam session. This one's maybe a little bit more psychological, but it's consider the low stakes. Jazz is a pretty supportive community, maybe until you get to that top 5% of, professional musicians. Not that we're not, well, I don't know if I'm in the top 5%. I don't want to speak for anybody, but not that musicians aren't supportive of each other, but in a jam session context, there's the cutting contest tradition. There's some competitiveness, but especially if it's an educational setting, a community setting, people are supportive. And what I want to see, if I'm going into a jam session and showing up week after week and I see the same person week after week, I'm going to be looking for progress. I don't really care if you play good or bad. I mean, if you play bad enough that you're bumming everybody out, I care. But man, if I come and then I come again in 2 months and you're playing better, I'm going to be like thrilled for you. And so what this means by consider the low stakes is that each performance, each time you show up to that jam session, it is one little stone on your path on the way. So if you go that first time, you get totally lost in the form, be really kind to the musicians, buy them all a beer, apologize, within limits, thank them for playing with you, show up the next week, do better. We all mess up, and we all need a place where we can mess up. So I hope you can find that at your jam session. And then the last one is find your people. To me, this is the point of a jam session, is not to go to that jam session forever, although some people really enjoy it. But what I try to do is I try to find people who I really like their playing. Maybe I had a good vibe from them personally, and then I approach them afterwards and say, hey, you want to do a session at my house? I'll make lunch. I'll feed you, and we can play some tunes. Or even better, if they're a little bit higher than you, ask them for a lesson, or ask them, where are you playing in town? Can I show up to your gigs? So those are, I guess, maybe two groups of people that you could find. One would be colleagues who are at roughly the same level as you, who you might want to spend some time, or you might even want to form an ensemble with, so that you can grow together. But the other one would be mentors, community elders, people who you admire and you want to become part of their scene. And they will be deeply appreciative. Somebody after the jam session is like, man, I loved your playing. Do you have any dates coming up? I want to come see you. What a beautiful compliment. And hopefully you can spin that off into a meaningful role model kind of relationship as well. So please, I was about to say don't fear jam sessions, and I do want to communicate that. Don't fear jam sessions, but maybe also fear them the appropriate amount. Show up with respect. If you're going to play a tune, show up really knowing that tune. Show up with some level of mastery over that small part of the repertoire. Show up memorized, please, when you can. If you're just doing one tune, there's no excuse to not play it from memory. And I hope that it leads to like really meaningful music making experiences where you get to play in a group, but also relationships. So that's it for this edition. Here's a great invitation to you for the comments. If you watched all the way to the end, name a jam session in your local community. And maybe the comments can be, a little listing of various jam sessions and where to find them. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody.